Our guest today is Carol Sokatch. Carol's lived here at Epworth for 6 years now. She said before she chose Epworth, she visited many other retirement centers in the area and chose this one to be the best. And she also had a few friends who lived here, and those who know Carol know she has inexhaustible energy. So Carol, tell us a little bit about you. Well, where were you born?
I was born in Freeport, Illinois, home of the Pretzels. Our high school team were actually the Pretzels, P-R-E-T-Z-E-L-S. And it's also where Lincoln made his House Divided speech. I went to Beloit College and not quite sure what I wanted to do, so I went to graduate school out at Washington State University. And in October, they said, maybe you know the guy on the 5th floor. He's from Illinois, too. So we did get to meet. We got engaged by Christmas. My father died in January, his mother in February, so we were married in Pullman, Washington that June. And 10.5 months later, we had a son. And before we left, I got my master's, and we came to Oklahoma, and we've been here ever since. So we came here in '58. And Jack was at the Health Sciences Center.
All right. And then what did you do? I know you did some traveling at some point.
Well, first of all, while the kids were little, I did the usual things like Cub Scout den mother, did Bluebirds. I had 2 daughters. And then I did other volunteer stuff like Helping Hands. I volunteered with a breast screening center scientific project, just things like that. Then in '63, '64, Jack got a Career Development Award, which allowed him to go to England and revamp his career. And he also had a Fulbright that paid for us to go over on the Queen Mary. And on that particular voyage, everybody on the Queen Mary had either a Fulbright or was related to somebody with a Fulbright. So then we spent 11 months in Sheffield, England, and things happen when we go places. JFK was assassinated, and the English so loved the guy that his sister Kathleen was buried not far from Sheffield. They heaped her grave with flowers, and we got to see that.
Oh.
It was also fun because the kids could actually hide in the tree where Robin Hood and his merry men hid from the sheriff of Nottingham in Sherwood Forest. We did things like that. We acquired an MG Midget as our family car, which we drove in England, but it had American specifications, which was fascinating, with an American steering wheel, but on the English roads.
Oh, my goodness. Well, now, wait, let me interrupt you just a minute. What kind of work was Jack doing during this time?
Well, he came here to Oklahoma as a bacteriologist, immunologist. And his research, he both taught at the Health Science Center and did research. And his research, every time we went somewhere, changed direction or modernized.
I see.
So we really enjoyed being in Sheffield. The kids were little. We had a babysitter next door who was just a darling little old man with rosy cheeks and a standard-sized poodle that looked him in the eye, and he would babysit for us, so that was neat. Our kids went to, well, David was old enough to go to the first year of school, and it was interesting. The headmistress at the school was very proud that many of the children that went there were children of professional people, doctors, lawyers. Mr. Popple, the babysitters, lived with his son-in-law, who was headmaster of another school. Now, Sheffield is basically a blue-collar town, and he said, yes, I'm a headmaster of a school where many of my children are children of professional people, but it's the oldest profession. So that was interesting. We kept meeting interesting people. And then a lot of my life is connected with what Jack did in his career. About 11 years later, we finally went on a sabbatical, and this time we ended up in Cambridge. And by this time, instead of being 9 months, 3 and 5, our children were 16, 18, and 20.
Oh, wow.
So that was interesting. While we were in Cambridge, Margaret Thatcher was elected Prime Minister. As I said, things happen.
Yeah.
So it was marvelous. Barbara and David audited the same classes at Cambridge, and Barbara made friends who, one of the guys later came to the United States with a girlfriend and got to see Barbara on the pom-pom squad at OSU. So
oh, how
that
wonderful.
Was neat. Another 10 years later, we did another sabbatical. By this time, David was married, Barbara was married, and we went to Germany. And we went to Braunschweig, which was the closest town to the East German border. It was also the town where Hitler was given his German citizenship.
Oh, my.
And so that was fascinating. We lived about 30 miles away, 20 miles away, but had picked up, this time, a red BMW, which we could drive into work. And I'd go into work with Jack, and I'd do things like do the Petri dishes, do things like that. And at the meantime, he had switched to become chairman of biochemistry, molecular biology. And he had planned to do the sabbatical after he retired from that position, but they changed provost at the Health Science Center, so it took a while. And so he was chairman of the department, so I was sort of his secretary in Germany, communicating with University of Oklahoma here in Oklahoma City.
Wow.
And while we were there, we were invited to a meeting in East Germany, which was fascinating. We drove in, and we filled up with gas just before we went in. And somebody said, you know, that was coming out of East Germany, said, it just smells so great. We thought, well, he's being metaphoric and talking about the great smell of freedom. No, it smelled clean. East Germany used soft coal and was smelling. The day we left Germany, East Germany, the wall came down.
Oh.
And of course, Braunschweig being that close, before we had walked to the border, there were the enormous fence, the guard with the dogs, the tank trap, the searchlights, the machine guns. The wall came down with German efficiency. The wall came down there. They filled in the moat, paved it over, and they were directing the East Germans into West Germany, where they could pick up 100 D-marks, which they spent on bananas, shampoo, and Christmas tree ornaments.
Wow.
So, 10 years later, while we were there, we met some Russians. And they said, if you ever come back again to Europe, let us know, and we'll see that you come to Russia. So we did. The next year, we were going to a meeting in Italy, so, I mean, that's on the way to Russia while you're there. So we went to Moscow. While we're in Moscow, Yeltsin resided in the Communist Party. So
my goodness.
It was interesting what we did academically that dovetailed with world events.
Now, you both shared one of your habits that you haven't mentioned, and that is your flying.
We did fly. It turned out we took a demonstration ride for $5, and Jack said, maybe you should learn to land the plane just in case I die at the controls and you can save the children.
Oh.
So ground school was 2 for the price of 1, so we took our lessons, and it took 9 months, just like a baby. I got my license 1 day before he did.
Oh, for heaven's sakes.
And I have about 1,000 hours, plus half an hour of that is as flying a hot air balloon, which I'm proud of.
Oh, yes, my goodness. And?
Oh,
what else do you have?
I worked for a while, and then I got tired of that, and so I went back to volunteering. And I did things like the Omniplex, Of course, I was a member of the 99s because of my pilot's license. I was at, in the meantime, I had been things with the Oklahoma Pilots Association. I know I'm forgetting something. Oh, I did Whiz Kids.
You did the National Cowboy Hall.
Oh, I was a docent at the Cowboy Hall of Fame for 25 years. And when I was vice chairman, I was very proud to be able to get Michael Wallace, who wrote the Mother Road about US 66, as one of our speakers for our meetings. I was chairman. For the 99s, I was chairman of the chapter. We have a proficiency air rally every year, although it's postponed this year. And I was chairman of that one year. So. And
you've been a volunteer for your church.
Yeah, I've done some of that too.
And you're St. Anne's Guild.
Yeah, well, right now all I'm doing for that is deciding where we're going for our monthly Sunday lunches and then making the reservations.
That was just wonderful. Carol, thank you so much for giving us your time. That was just wonderful, Carol. Thank you so much.
No, you can't laugh during this. Okay.